going down and into those areas where demand is going up, or away from those areas where technology is outmoded and into those areas where you're getting lower cost technology implemented. So sure, it's not a problem in a static economy, in a world where everybody's a robot and nothing ever changes. Okay? So Mises said, however, in a dynamic economy that's in constant disequilibrium, where everything is the economic data are changing, consumer values, technology, and resources, you continuously need feedback of profits and losses to tell entrepreneurs what to do next. Okay? Not only that, entrepreneurs are forward-looking, so they're not only thinking about what to do next for tomorrow, they're thinking about what to do next for 5 years from now. Because if everybody just thought about tomorrow, then you would be losing a lot of efficiency by not adapting your plan to the future. So those were easily dealt with by Mises. Okay. The more sophisticated responses came from neoclassically trained economists in the English-speaking world in the 1930s. Actually, not just also this argument came out of Italy with Vilfredo Pareto and Enrico Barone, two Italian economists who were not socialists. And what they did was they set up a system of equations that embodied consumer values, technology, production functions, and scarcities of resources, and a system of supply and demand equations, basically. Now, they came up with, Pareto developed, it was a small economy. And what he said was that if you have the information to fill into these equations, okay, about consumer demands and so on, then you can solve them, and the solution will give you the correct prices and quantities of all goods that should be produced. But what Pareto pointed out was that even in a small economy, there'd be 69,000 equations for, like, I don't know, I forget how big the economy was supposed to be. But it would, he said basically, you won't be able to solve these equations. You won't be able to get the knowledge for them. So he sort of threw that aside. But later on, I mean, that was in late 19th century. That was in the late 19th century or so. And so later on, other British economists came up. They came up with the solution again. They said, you know what? Mises was already refuted because we can use simultaneous equations to solve these problems. Okay. We'll get the information, we'll put them into the equation system, and then we'll get the right prices and quantities, and we won't have any monopoly, and we won't have any other problems that we have with advertising or anything. We'll just have the right prices, right quantities. We'll be more efficient. All right, so that was called the mathematical solution, and let me just deal with the second solution, which is also pretty sophisticated, the trial and error method of market socialism. Okay, and there was an American named Fred M. Taylor, a Pole named Oscar Lange, who studied at Chicago, who was a communist but also a neoclassically trained economist, and a British economist, Abel Lerner. And basically what they said was the following. We can imitate the market, and we can get rid of the inefficiencies of the market by simply having a trial and error process in which we tell, the Central Planning Board will set prices. We'll set prices of consumer goods. We'll set prices of producer goods. And when we do that, they will have input decisions based on these prices. We'll tell them, just act as if these prices are real prices. Now, if the demand for a good exceeded the supply, then the Central Planning Board would raise the price. If the demand for the good was less than supply, that meant that the price was too high, they would lower the price. So they'll find the right prices, and then the businessmen will calculate, the socialist managers will calculate on the basis of those prices, and they'll produce goods in the same way that the market does, but without any sort of inefficiency, any sort of monopoly. Okay. Well, there's a number of responses to this. Lionel Robbins and Friedrich Hayek, who are sort of students of Mises on this question, came up and said, look, the mathematical solution, there are real problems with that. The economic data are widely scattered. It's very difficult to find out people's value scales and so on. Okay. So that's going to be difficult. But even if you could find that information, solving the equations in the pre-computer era, the millions of equations that you'd need to solve would prove to be impossible. Okay. And third, they said, even if you could solve the system of equations, the data are continually changing every day. We know that market prices are changing minute by minute in the real world, right? So by the time you did solve the equations, they would be irrelevant to today. They would be relevant to whenever you collected the data 5 years ago or 2 years ago or a few months ago. What did they say about the competitive solution of market socialism? Well, Hayek claimed that, this is pretty insightful, but he pointed out that there were two problems. How rapidly is a central planning board going to change prices? It can't change it minute to minute like the market would. It's going to take days or months for them to change these prices and get the information to the factories. Okay? So that's one thing. The second thing they said was that the price changes would not embody all the information, because there's a lot of information that managers and entrepreneurs know that cannot be put in the form of statistics and sent to the central planner. So they said that, well, maybe socialism sort of could calculate, but it would be very inefficient. Mises had an even stronger critique later on. Basically, and I'll end with this, Mises said that the mathematical method will only give you equilibrium. In the real world, you have to know at every moment how to change all the capital goods that are wearing out. Take the United States. These capital goods have been built up over the last 50 years, and they're continually wearing out. So what you have to do to get to the situation where you should be is to use them in the best way possible. They're not right. There's a lot of mistakes that were made by entrepreneurs, but we have them. So the mathematical solution assumes that we can throw all these capital goods away and start from scratch. And Mises says, no, you need a market. In the mathematical solution, there are no profits and losses. Okay? All prices are equal to costs, and you get the right quantities. But in the real world, that is not the case. And then finally, Mises criticized the last solution, the trial and error method. He said this is playing, he called it a playing market. This is like children playing market, making up rules about prices. Okay? He said that, in fact, he had already won the debate because the fact they were talking about market socialism meant that they believed you needed a price system. Okay? In fact, one of the economists that came up with the market socialism solution, his name was Oskar Lange. He went on to become a Polish central planner. He said that there should be a statue built to Ludwig von Mises in one of the Polish institutes. I don't remember if it was the Central Planning Board or wherever, because he raised an important problem, but we have solved this problem by the trial and error method. It's interesting, though, when Lange got into power in Poland, he did not institute a mathematical solution. He did not institute the trial and error method. He tried to use computers and he used gross output planning. Okay, so he didn't. So he just went back to the Soviet style. So all of these artificial methods of aping the market, right, of trying to replicate prices. Even the socialists themselves didn't use it. Okay, I'll stop here. Thank you.